My fellow Americans, it is time to take our freedom back.
So we're missing Lonnie today, but we have two guests.
Yeah.
Very special guests.
Very special guests. Yeah. We have Mr. Joseph Tully, attorney at law. Everybody's seen his face by now. And then Jeremy, the man behind the scenes. Edwardson.
This is my first guest appearance.
I give it a shot. It's not your first one. You've been on this before.
I don't think I have.
Really?
No, he hasn't.
I feel like you have because you're always here.
Hanging out with you guys.
Behind the glass.
So we just watched episode 6.5. Wow. Holy shit.
What do you guys think?
You guys are getting really good at putting this stuff together, man.
You've got a great crew.
I think we're going to probably piss some people off, but I think it's great that people are able to see a lot of the stuff that we didn't say during the trial, a lot of stuff that we couldn't say. And I'm interested to hear what Joseph thinks.
So I didn't want anything misrepresented from the trial,
Yeah.
and I thought it was really good. It was well done.
Yeah.
So I didn't see anything. I thought it was a truthful, accurate portrayal of the jury trial.
Sure.
So and the issues. So
and there was a lot of questions being asked during trial. I'm sure of you, of me, really of anybody certainly involved with this thing. And we just couldn't say a lot. You know, there was a lot of information that we couldn't give people. And I think at times people questioned our own motives because we were so quiet, we were so reserved with information because we were under a gag order. You know, we were real fearful that we'd break that thing.
Well, and they were getting hammered from the other side with misinformation. So, it was a barrage. Defend ourselves.
It was a barrage, and we've talked about how the other side was so good. We got to give them credit. They were so good at the constant barrage of misinformation,
Yeah. And even the way that
constant bullshit.
Even the way that the media, besides, I know they mentioned A News Cafe, but even like Channel 7 News, there were times I have a relationship with some of the guys there, and there were times where I'd have to call and say, you got to change that title. Yeah. And they're like,
it's so misleading.
Yeah. I'm like, that is completely misleading. And it's totally wrong. Yeah. And they would go, you know what, you're right. And they actually would change the title for me. But I'm like, the only reason you would write that title that way is to put some hype behind it. But it's actually a friend of mine who's on trial right now.
Sure.
And that's not a good message to the public when you're misleading people with a title.
Right.
So
I wonder how many people see the title and don't really read the article or read the whole thing.
Well, I think it's been shown that most people do. That's how you get your news. You don't actually read the articles. You get your news by sort of just reading the headlines.
Yeah, I read probably 1 out of 10, sometimes 1 out of 20.
There's something interests me or I'm already wanting to look at, then I'll click and read about it. But other than that, I think that most people, you could almost draw a political line down the middle and know how people felt about this trial. The people that thought I was guilty, the people that wanted me to be guilty were people that hated us anyway. They hated our message, they hated our politics, hated our influence here in this county and what we're doing. It was really that simple. I don't think there was very many people who thought he's not guilty and then thought he was guilty or vice versa. You could almost draw a political line down the middle of how people felt. Unfortunately, it went to a jury of 12 that we did our best to pick this jury, and Joseph, maybe you could talk a little bit about the things that we were saying to each other and thinking during that voir dire, process.
Sure. I wanted a fair jury trial. That's all I wanted. And the point that I was hammering was that it doesn't matter who takes a stand, what political side of the aisle they're on. Judge an individual by their actions according to the law. And, had that happened, based on fairness and based on the law, I think it would have been a little bit different result. But I think human nature got in there. And I think with the message out there, it wasn't a natural jury decision under the law as I see it.
Sure. I mean, you've tried many other cases. You've been an attorney for a lot of years, so you've probably seen a lot of these things come to different conclusions, right? Sometimes it goes just the way that you thought it was going to go, and sometimes it doesn't. And this was one that I can honestly say I didn't see coming. I mean, the entire time during the trial, we were having these conversations saying, man, we're winning this thing. I mean, the truth is out there, and we're telling the truth. They're not, and I think the jury's going to see that. And for some reason, they didn't. I think it really goes back to the episode, of the what's the experiment called? The famous Milgram experiment. The study there that shows that people put people in places of authority on a pedestal, and they follow them naturally. And even if it's not a conscious thing, they subconsciously or listen to Nolan's words differently. They'd listen to the words of the defense attorney, because there's always that thought that, well, they must have done something wrong to be here.
My daughter worked at the DA's office one summer, and she minored in law, and we would be discussing the trial at night, and she kept reminding me, man, Dad, you're confusing a justice system with a legal system, and it's not always the same.
That's a really smart observation.
Yeah, when the DA used the 37 miles an hour and a 35 analogy,
It's interesting because I brought that up with Tully, and for me, watching the trial, it was my first time sitting in a trial, and it took week after week after week of 8-hour days, and it was like I was watching like a major murder trial. I felt pressure being there just because there were multiple DAs on the case. There were DAs coming in the back of the room. It was so intense, and I'm sitting there going, "Am I taking crazy pills? Are we still talking about? Are we still talking about
the O.J. Simpson trial?
Was the splash accidental or on purpose?" And I'm like, "This is what a murder trial looks like, except we're talking about a water splash, and then something that happened with another individual behind the restaurant." That you were there, but you didn't.
So you got to remember, I own a bar. I own a busy bar on the weekends that's filled with a lot of people that usually ends up in somebody fighting somebody at some point, whether it's in a parking lot, whether it's a push and shove at the bar, whatever. This thing happens. What we saw there is minuscule compared to what happens on a regular weekend at any given bar across America. Why was this chosen to be front and center spotlighted the way it was?
Selective
into a criminal
enforcement.
Trial.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And even like from your standpoint, when I was talking to you, you were saying you've tried like major murder trials where people are facing a life decision in prison, and you'd never seen this kind of resources. If you could put a guesstimate on the amount of money this costs the Shasta County taxpayers, if you include, the judge's salary, the clerk of the board, is that what they're called?
The clerk of the court, yeah.
The clerk of the court. Then you've got the 12 jurors that are all taking work off, and they're losing money. The bailiff, the cost of the actual court
Quarterly about
facility.
$500,000.
It could
The
be
salaries of 3 DAs.
Yeah.
the DAs that were on the trial and the ones that were standing in the back of the room doing whatever they were there to do. It's incredible. You hear a lot of people saying this recall for Modi could cost up to $400,000 or something like that, $450,000.
They just spent that on a frivolous trial.
They just spent that to figure
And
out.
I know what people are going to say. People are going to say, well, you know what, it wasn't frivolous because you actually got convicted by a jury of 12 of your peers, but the information that was presented to them was such that I think, I don't know if we had a chance, even if we, we had the truth on our side.
Yeah, don't forget, the 60, 70%, 80% of the trial was the battery against you. And we did beat that. We did get a not guilty on that. So I think that is a victory. But then the 415, the challenging, which is kind of a nothing charge, but it shouldn't have happened that way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt a lot like they were like, all right, well, Carlos didn't really do anything, but he's here, so we got to get him with something,
Because
okay,
of that
here it is,
pressure.
Yeah.
I called Tully after everything was said and done. I said, I've never seen a trial. The thing that made me mad, because we're supposed to give the benefit of the doubt. Like what is it called? You're innocent until proven guilty, right?
But you're really not. We'll talk about that later. But go ahead.
And you've got the closing statement. The final statement is by the prosecution. There's no rebuttal to their final. And I noticed that Nolan Weber, the deputy DA, he was putting a lot in that closing statement that I hadn't heard before. And that's where the pressure came in. It is your duty. This is your responsibility. It might just be going 36 and a 35, but you need to charge him because he is guilty, and we have proven it to you. And I'm sitting there going, proven it how? If the charge is that Carlos is doing something to instigate a fight. I think that's the charge. He's disrupting public to instigate a fight.
Challenging someone to fight. So saying, hey, let's fight right now, or I want to fight, or something like that.
What did he say?
Exactly. Nobody knows.
If you want to, we can handle this outside, is what I read in the news or something.
Yeah, the way I actually said, I was like, look, I'm not doing this in here. And I've said this, I've been in confrontations my whole life, right? I mean, and you say things that, don't always mean what people think it means. If I say, hey, we're not going to do this in here out of respect for the bar owner, let's go outside. We can talk about it outside. I'm not going outside to beat the shit out of you. You're a 4'2" kid, with a loud mouth. I mean, to me, would it feel good to whip your ass? Sure. But I'm not going to, we could probably go outside, talk this out, cool off, and then go our separate ways. The rest of that never would happen.
But that was one. So the jury actually, they cleared you of the challenge, like during the water incident. Yeah. They only discussed the challenge, a supposed challenge during the back of the restaurant.
Sure. Walking towards.
Yeah.
And you know how I know that I am still innocent. You know how people should measure this and know that I'm innocent is the fact that we even went to trial. You got to remember, I wasn't offered an infraction. Why in the hell would I want to put myself, my family through this trial if there was any bit of guilt in my mind, in my conscience about the whole incident? I mean, there was none. I mean, I can literally to this day say, in fact, when I took the stand at the end, at sentencing, they asked me, they said, so sitting right there right now, do you still presume yourself innocent? I said, absolutely 100%, and to this day I do.
And a lot of people said, there were people saying in one ear, Carlos, take the infraction. It's going to be easier. But there was something in you that said, look, I haven't done anything wrong. If I take that infraction, I'm basically saying, okay, I did something wrong. And you fought for justice. You fought for, hey, I know I didn't do anything wrong. How in the world could they convict me of anything?
We have a DA that doesn't care about justice in this town, in this county, and that's the problem.
Yeah, let's talk about the alligator pit.
Yes.
You know what it means now. And I'm sorry that you know what it means.
You got to tell a story. You got to tell it. Since you were the original one to tell it, you got to say it, what the alligator theory is.
Okay. Well, so a lot of times, and it's not just you, it's a lot of my clients in a lot of my cases will say, oh, the DA won't waste time and resources on this. They won't spend community resources on this. And I told you, okay, listen, have you ever been to an alligator pit at the zoo? Imagine if you were to throw in a side of beef and, 20 chickens and, ribs, whatever, throw it all in an alligator pit. Just throw in a lot of meat. Would you go swim in that alligator pit? And what was your answer?
Hell no, I wouldn't.
Okay,
No
because
way.
an alligator doesn't care that there's food in there, doesn't care that there's more. If they see you and they can get you, they will. Mm-hmm. And that's what we saw, right?
And I remember you also saying in the beginning of this thing, hey, these guys are being real nice to you right now, but remember that once that trial starts, you're not going to be so nice, you're not going to hit below the belt. And that's what they did the entire time.
Yeah.
Nolan Weber and Anthony Miller, that's what they did. Their job the entire time was to know that they couldn't win the fight fairly, but they had the title. They had the prosecution pedestal, right, where they were able to hit below the belt, and we weren't playing by those same rules, nor could we, nor should we. We were just there simply presenting the facts, and again, I think we were up against a monster. But
it's pretty interesting. Right after the trial, the very next month, the district attorney's office gave Nolan Weber an Employee of the Month, and they said for a recent. It was kind of interesting because the post was like, for a recent trials.
Yeah.
Are you talking about what trial? We all know what trial he's been on for last month.
I think we all know why. I don't know, maybe he got promoted or something, who knows.
But again, the battery was the main charge. It had, a 10-year gun ban against you. Mm-hmm. That was, the main case.
No, I'm glad we beat
lost
that for sure. 100%. And what you said in the video, I think resonated with me because it's really frightening to think about that you can be convicted for being an innocent person in America. This happens in third world countries, happens in countries that aren't developed, in countries where they don't have the same, system, Republican system that we have here. You can expect that.
A corrupt DA is just like a corrupt cop to me. This was abuse of power, plain and simple. I mean, she did this, I believe, as a favor to Leonard, or just not liking our politics 100%. In general too. And it's not the first time that she's done things like this, and we need a
new DA
to run, and we need a new DA. Yeah, we got to run something.
Tully. You want to talk about that now?
I don't want it. I mean, I would do it to have people suggest that to me is not something that I take lightly. So it's something. It's sort of like you don't want to run into a burning building, but if somebody said, "Hey, look, there's somebody in there. You need to save them, or you need to help," you would do it.
The problem with politics is that you get your middle of the road guy, right? You get the person who's like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really good enough to be here, but I'm not really shitty enough to be down here, so I'll go into politics. I'll go work for the government, right? I mean, let's be honest. That's kind of the way it works, right? In government work, they're not bad people. They're very good people. They're doing maybe an important job, maybe not. But the cream of the crop doesn't work for the government. So we need people we need people that say, hey, you know what? I don't really want to do that. I'm going to give up my private practice, everything I've worked for, but when duty calls, it might be a chance for you to answer.
I won't throw it out the window. I don't want to do it, but if I did it, I would do the best possible that I could at it. Yeah. And I would just work very hard at it. And everything that I brought to my private practice and into my life, I would bring to that position. So
we have been so focused on recalling the supervisors and really focusing on that race, right? On making sure that we have a good board of supervisors here locally. But we often ignore things like the DA. To me, that's the most important,
She just registered for the 2022 run.
She did. She's unopposed right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The real pillar of freedom here is for me to be able to live my life normally, not as a criminal, but just as a normal, working, thinking, walking person without the fear that I'm going to be convicted of something, And what do they say? They say that the average person breaks, I don't know, however many laws a day,
like runs afoul of the law 20 times a day or something like that is a phrase, I think.
And you don't even know which laws you're breaking.
And that's fine, but I want to trust that there's not a district attorney who is going to prosecute me on things that I don't know are wrong or that shouldn't be wrong, that are just common sense, I mean, her job is to keep this county safe, along with the sheriff, along with the other officials in the county, is to keep us safe. That's number one, is our security.
And the fact that she put all this resource into going after you when, frankly, there was another person in the room with an illegal firearm, rack and slide, saying he's going to kill you over and over.
It's already been dropped by the same district attorney.
Obviously had a bullet chambered because there was a round found on the ground, and the only reason there could be a round on the ground is if you already had one jacked in the chamber and you pulled the slide back and
kicked out
loaded another one just to make sure it was loaded. I mean, where's all these lies? And then they sent 2 DAs to come and tell you, Jeremy, like that blew my mind that they would use those kind of resources to send 2 DAs to go and tell you can't go to court and watch it because you're a witness when you weren't even there. There's got to be all kinds of stuff going on that needs to be looked at, and criminal stuff that like real bad stuff that should be looked at and that's being ignored. I mean, could you think of anything better that 2 high-paid DAs could be doing than going to shake you down and tell you can't? I mean, like, really, they could have sent the coffee girl to go do that.
Take it down. I mean, you really fix the system by taking it down, starting over and rebuilding it with a lot of common sense, a lot of honor, a lot of integrity. It's what it takes, and there's none of that right now. That DA's office right now is not representing any of the things that we expect from a judicial
body. I've had multiple cops tell me that they have cases in there that she's declined to file on. Serious domestic violent type stuff that she's declined, but that's been in there for months and months, but she jumps right on this. It's
that's got to create some infighting, because if I worked for her and I saw this stuff going on and I was actually cared about my job and wanted to make the county a better place, and I was bringing issues to her and she's ignoring those and using the resources to go after something.
But then you wouldn't get
like
employee
this.
of the month, John.
But the police department and the sheriff's department are different, and they actually are coming to us all the time privately saying, we love what you guys are doing. This county needs serious change. I mean, the letter that we got that talked about Modi being involved in this case was from a cop. He knew. And then Modi's already doing interviews. He did an interview, I think, yesterday. I just read it. And he was saying, it's true, I did call Chief Schuler, but it wasn't because I was inserting myself in this case. It's because somebody was harmed in our city over some political thing that has to do with the Board of Supervisors, and so but then I stayed out of it. Well, you do hold the purse strings for the DA's office, Modi. You're the one that gives a raise or denies a raise to the district attorney. So at the end of the day, you inserted yourself. You made it pretty clear that it was a big deal to you, and you got all over the news and started talking about it. And the only thing that Modi keeps saying is, here's what Red, White, and Blue is doing again, or Red, White, and Blueprint's doing again, just telling more lies. It's like, what lies did we tell,
and
Modi?
Just to be clear, because I know I'm going to get beat up for this, I'm not disparaging or belittling anybody that works for the government. I'm just making an observation here of
there's good people in government, bad people, middle people, the whole gambit.
100%.
Just like anything
there's
else.
a quality spread, but I am saying that the cream of the crop of people are going to work for higher paying jobs, and the people that just can't cut it aren't ever going to go work for anybody, So there is a middle window there that we're dealing with, And there's people that work in the government that'll tell you, I don't do shit all day. I'm here because it's an easy job, and I probably shouldn't even have a job here. But and that's part of the corruption. That's part of the deal that we're looking at. And don't even call it corruption. I think that's part of the mismanagement, the gross mismanagement of government, the bureaucracy that we see where there's so many people that work in agencies that shouldn't even exist. Why do we even have them? So
I would say too that one of the things I'm excited about with what I'm seeing in our county. And it's not just Red, White, and Blueprint. We've put a spotlight on it, and we've highlighted a lot of people that have been working hard all year long to make a change. But what it's doing is it's inspiring so many people, and it's waking up this whole county. I mean, right now we have 3 Board of Supervisors seats coming up: District 1, 2, and 5. Yeah. And I heard this week we've got several people that are putting their name in the hat for the school board superintendent.
Sure.
Because right now it's Judy Flores, and she's just very
in the bed over
she loves Newsom and all that's coming down. A lot of the parents, most of the parents in Shasta County,
we are the least vaccinated child population in California, in Shasta County.
And they had a meeting the other night. It's like, let's figure out how we're gonna deal with all these crazy parents that don't want to vaccinate their 5-year-olds.
Sure.
That's basically the meeting.
Crazy parents.
All the crazy parents that don't want to vaccinate their 5-year-olds.
Crazy if you do.
Well, they're saying 6 month in March. Fauci's saying, "Oh yeah, we'll have a shot ready by spring of 2022 for 6 months to 5-year-olds."
Yeah.
The thing is, we have an opportunity right now in this county because this county is actually pretty damn good. There's things we're fixing, there's things we're working on, but because we're doing that, it's shifting. Right now, we have an excellent sheriff right now who I feel, we all sort of talked about the way he was appointed, and maybe had some disagreements there. But by and large, he's proven to be a good man. And I've known Mike Johnson for some time. He's a good, honest man, a hardworking man, a man who cares about the law, and a man who cares about, security and safety for everybody across the board. I think that we're on the verge of having a good board of supervisors. I really believe that, But the best thing that we have right now is citizens that are awake, alive, and doing something about it.
Yeah.
Because your politicians don't define how good or how bad your county is.
No.
It's really the citizens. And we have the strongest citizens there are. I just took a trip a couple weeks ago to Texas.
Yeah, I was going to ask
I
you.
went up there for a week because I was like, the hell with this. I'm out. After everything I'd been through, I said, it's time for us to just pick up and go. Start fresh somewhere else. And of course, naturally gravitate to Texas. There's a lot of stuff I like about that state. I've been there. I have friends there. But I'll tell you, there was not one thing I liked there more than what I have here. There's not one place I want to jump at. I could trade my place in, my life here for this, because we have a population here that I really think is the best population in the world in its citizens. We have people that are so awake, so smart, still have that fighting spirit. I call it that fighting spirit of the West. You get over the Rockies, and I'm like, these people that are over here, they had to come over the Rockies to be here, and that means something if you read history. And that pioneer spirit that we have, I think, is leading the way for the rest of the country right here in Shasta County. So how do we leave, and I know Woody and I have had this conversation, ad nauseum about leaving and going to Texas, but how do I leave at this point right now where we're actually winning the fight? It's like, man, we're in the 10th round, our opponent is stumbling all over the fucking place, and then we're going to walk out of the ring? No, we got to stay here until we're done.
Finish the game.
Absolutely.
And that was kind of part of my point earlier, is that with this whole community rising up, we're finding people wanting those jobs that they never would have wanted before. Right. And almost like totally like I wouldn't ever want that job, but now I cannot not run for it because our county
You're stuck now,
our
Tully.
county needs it. Like I'm meeting guys that are like, man, I went to my first Board of Supervisors meeting and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Yeah. And I just immediately knew I've got to run for that position. Sure. I would never, ever want that job, but I have to take that job because our county needs real leaders who are the voice of the people here and not just ignoring everybody.
Sure. And I think that a DA should have a term limit of 1 term. Why, when you have the skills, the education, the certification that you have as a lawyer, why would you want to stay in that government job for more than 1 term? I mean, you go in there, you make a difference, and then you...
Yeah, the thing is so it used to be traditionally that government positions were, it was less money, but better benefits, right?
Sure.
Now the comparisons between private and government makes a lot more, actually.
Yeah. That's a problem.
And the benefits are 90% of their pay for the rest of their life when they get out. And even this Tuesday, there's a Board of Supervisors meeting this Tuesday.
For raises, right?
Where they're giving raises to all the upper management, all the department heads. Some are getting raises as high as 30-40%.
To me, government shouldn't be a place that you want to land for your entire career. Now listen, law enforcement, firefighters, I understand that's a different deal. I'm talking about
department guys.
Yeah, but there's so many people that just sit at desks and they couldn't even tell you what their job is, but they're there just punching the clock every day all the way to retirement, and that's on our dime. Remember that we don't stop paying these people once they retire; we start paying them once they retire, and then now they're on our dime for the rest of their lives.
And that's why our county's in a $1 billion pension debt.
Sure,
and we're given huge raises because we have a ton of extra COVID relief money coming in that we're not going to have next year. And I think they're just, you can't take away a raise. So at this point they have money. So what do? We give everybody raises. What are we going to do next year? Yeah. At some point it's not going to work.
And meanwhile, we can't find people to work in the private sector. Yeah. And this isn't industry specific. You talk to anybody that owns a business right now and they'll tell you, I can't find people to work, because how do we compete with government? How do we compete with government that allows me to stay home on the couch to get paid, or government that'll hire me to do a somewhat meaningless job and get paid really well?
I have a hard time competing with the public defender's office, and we're a good firm. We work hard.
Sure.
But can I match their salaries and their benefits? I can't do it.
Sure.
So
that's interesting you say that, because I thought it'd be the other way around. I always thought
that's what you would think.
Yeah.
No.
So the line staff, they are the backbone of the county government, and they don't get paid very well at all.
No.
Like, I want to make a point, like, there is a lot of good people that work, like the boots on the ground in every department. And some of those departments maybe are a little fat, need some trimming. Other ones maybe need a few more line staff. But what's happening on Tuesday is ridiculous. Everybody that's watching this, if you have any passion for this county and you want to see it get straightened out, come Tuesday at 9 a.m. because they're literally voting to give raises to all the upper management, which they did last year. Sure. This year, it's just going insane.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I saw the average pay. I added up the numbers, and it looks like the lowest paying job is $100,000, and the higher ones would be over $200,000.
Sure.
And that's before all the bennies.
And the heart and soul of America has never been in the public sector. The heart and soul of America has always been in the private sector, and having a strong private sector, a strong class of people that are willing to go to work every day. Entrepreneurs, start businesses, create things, produce things, and that's being. There's been a big wet blanket getting thrown on that right now by the government, where I think they want to train these kids from a really young age to work for the government, God, what better control can they have than to have a bunch of government workers, right?
Well, someone that has the power to give you everything has the power to take everything away.
Absolutely.
And, and that's kind of, if we had a true free market and we had less government involvement in our everyday lives and more private sector jobs and people, more ability to open your own businesses without getting taxed to death. We don't really need as many government jobs. And the problem with that is when they come down and they say, well, you got to do this, you're going to lose your pension.
Sure.
You're going to do, and you're relying on them, the same people that are bringing totalitarianism towards you.
And I'll say the same thing about big corporations. Like a person shouldn't have to choose between going to work for the government or a large corporation. There should be a lot of small businesses that they can go earn a good living at locally.
Yeah.
So
I want to bring some up with the trial real quick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are, I would say, on the other side.
Sure.
And not a lot of people, but there's a group of people, right? It's like
Very loud, obnoxious.
yeah,
people.
a small group of trolls online, and there's a few things that they keep saying, and one of them is, Carlos went there for a purpose,
Yeah, to eat dinner with my wife.
Yeah, and I just want to, like, how many times do you go to that place? I already know because I go there
times a week.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And I have people that have asked me, they said, why in the world did he go there? And you know what I tell them?
Because he goes there all the time.
Leading up to that incident, I ate with
That's an
Carlos
ignorant
there
question.
once a week and twice during the week.
Yeah.
I'm just one dude. Every time I say, hey, Carlos, where do you want to eat? We going to View 202. We going to, Market Street. Every time. Yeah.
You're braver than I am because I'd be afraid Pinckney would see it was me.
But it's never been a
cooking my
problem.
food.
No, and Pinckney's always...
here's the thing about
He's
him to
always there.
understand.
Never been a problem.
It's a roller coaster, so he ramps up, and then he kind of quiets down, ramps up. So he'd always been kind of quiet. I mean, it never really been an issue, but it just happened to be that leading up to that, he'd had ramped up a lot of attacks against me personally, against our movement,
He was kind of having an episode or something. I mean, you're there all the time, but he decided that would be the day he comes out and starts razzing you.
He was drinking too.
Yeah, let me say that too about the back of the restaurant. What people don't know is that you went and met Liz. Her boyfriend ran off after Pinckney cussed him out or cussed her out. And you went and met Liz. You went to go look for her boyfriend, and you followed his same route. And as you got to where he was behind you. He had made a loop. He caught up to you. And right at that exact time, you're getting phone calls, F you, you're a little bitch, that kind of thing. And you see Pinckney right there. So you go up to him. Look, I'm right here. Why you had
This
called
is the
me
most
twice.
natural hand. I can't think of another hand motion that I would use to tell somebody, "Hey, I'm right here."
I did that.
I just did it right now without even thinking about it. It's this. And they said, well, Carlos raised his hands like he wanted to fight, If you could hear the vile shit that those two idiots were saying, Cornelius and Pinckney, when we were walking up, they wanted to fight.
And they're coaxing you back in the restaurant.
They wanted to fight. Let's do it in here.
What was in the restaurant?
Let's do it. Ghetto as shit, man. They wanted to fight.
A cocked and loaded gun.
Yeah.
Come back here.
Yep.
Come in here.
Within seconds of that door, too. So, yeah. So, I mean, like the not guilty on that should have been you told your wife you were going to go calm things down. Yeah. What did he say? Cornelius testified he did nothing. There's no evidence to the contrary. And then that you got harassing text messages. So is it possible you walked up to him mad about that?
Sure.
Is it reasonably possible?
Walking up to somebody's not a crime.
Yeah.
Talking to somebody's not a crime.
So if it's reasonably
aggressively is not a
possible,
crime.
it should have been not guilty.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Plus the things Pinckney was saying to Liz. I mean, Chris.
Jesus Christ. I mean,
no guy is going to stand there while he talks like that. He's just foul.
Well, when the DA gets up there and says, it's not about what's reasonable or makes sense or whatever, I forget exactly how he said it, but he's like, it's about the law and what's legal. You know what I mean? But what about all the overlooked things like the loaded gun, the lying to the police about it?
They had to overlook a lot of crap.
If he cares so much about what's, the law, if he cares so much about it, why didn't he look at any of that stuff if he's so worried about the law being broke, no matter what, whether it's a good or bad thing?
Now,
his boss is a political
a question
activist.
I get asked a lot is why didn't the judge just throw it out? Why wouldn't a reasonable judge see it and just be like, hey, guys, this is stupid, Maybe you can answer that. I don't.
Judges are reluctant to take something away from a jury, and I think that's right. Imagine, let's say Jeffrey Epstein, a judge took away his case or something and be like, no, that's corruption. So a judge, once a case goes to a jury, is really, really reluctant to. This case,
I'm saying in the very beginning, as a judge, does he have the ability to say, hey, look at the case
20, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes, but now DAs have more power over judges. Again, we were lucky we had a good judge who is fair, who cares about the law. But just in general today, judges don't throw out cases anymore.
Sure.
They haven't done it for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I've got a quick question. If you were, for Joseph, if you have somebody who's stalking you, mocking you, making parodies of you, and threatening you, and then all of a sudden they're we're talking about innocent until proven guilty, and then you have someone file a restraining order, the same person who's like picking a fight with you over and over and over again. I mean, he went to your daughter's graduation to serve the papers to you. You know, he came stalking you here at the studio to serve you the papers. And I'm just saying, like, how is that all overlooked? Because to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, how someone, if they're saying, I'm afraid of this guy, he's going to do this and that, and then he's the one stalking you, and he's going to serve you the papers.
You know what I'm most afraid of right now? Let me tell you what I'm most afraid of right now.
But then you got to give your gun rights up. I'm just saying, like, what
I'm most
about
afraid of right now is that somebody's going to do something to that kid. It's not me, and they're going to come look at me. And literally, I think about these things. You know, I'm sitting there at home with my family, you know, playing Yahtzee with my kids. Man, we got a fire going.
Guilty.
You know, whatever. And I'm thinking, like, I sure hope nobody offs this kid because they're going to come looking for me. I'm going to be stuck in this fucking mess.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me just say, I've talked to you privately. I've talked to you.
Yeah.
Nobody really has bad feelings towards Mr. Pinckney.
No.
I mean, if I could, I would just give the guy a hug. I really don't hate him.
Sure.
You know?
I feel really bad for him.
Yeah,
you know?
I do too. I want him to have.
Sure.
I want him to feel better about things, about his
life
life.
sucks. So I mean, I don't think he has parents. I mean, that love him. He doesn't have friends. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a real steady job. He doesn't have anything in his life, I think, to look forward to, and it's really sad.
A lot of that he brought on himself, though. So.
100% yes.
It's harder to make friends when you're just everybody that you come in contact with. Eventually, they become
vile.
The butt end of your joke or your meme or your parody.
Sure.
I mean,
I'd love for that kid to have an actual political debate. If you have a political stance, you know, you can debate intelligently without having to act like a comedian, because you're not a comedian. You're not funny. You know, people that tell you you're funny they feel sorry for you, dude. You know, they feel sorry for you because of who you've portrayed yourself to be. You know, this poor black kid in Shasta County who can't get justice. You know, I can't keep a job. Everybody hates me. You know, so they kind of pat you on the butt, tell you, oh, you're funny. You're funny. You know, dude, those people hate you. Those people don't like you. Those people don't want you to get better. They don't want you to be a better person. You know, they don't care about you. You know, so quit doing that. Come to the table and have an honest debate like an adult.
I think a lot of people would help him out. You know, if he. Sure. I don't think you would turn your back on him. I really don't.
I offered him a job. Yeah. You know, I mean, I really did. And I was honest in doing that. You know,
if he wanted to fight for freedom and liberty, you know what I mean. I would take him as an ally. I'll take any ally I can get. I don't. You know,
but unfortunately, and I'm not going to talk too much about this here. You know, he's doing some things and saying some things that are unforgivable at this point. You know, and he's going to have to deal with that. You know, and we're still in the TRO phase now of this deal, where we're having to deal with a temporary restraining order. Hopefully, it doesn't get turned into a restraining order. You know, but there's things that we're going to bring before a judge to say, hey, look, let's look at this from a common sense point of view. You seem to be a fair man, a fair judge. You know, let's look at this in a way that really benefits everybody, right?
Yeah, or just look at the truth of the situation, which he saw a lot of it in trial. But yeah, we have the TRO pending early January.
Sure. And let's not forget that he said this publicly, and to people that I know, that his entire goal, his objective, is to instigate, antagonize people to the point that they do something, and then he gets restraining orders on them, because that stops the movement, right? If none of us can ever go to a single place because he's there.
You've tried to go to supervisors meetings,
and this is what he makes no qualms about it. He doesn't try to hide that. You know?
He's got the last supervisors meeting that you wanted to go to, which you wanted to go to because you're very concerned about the state of Shasta County.
Because I actually care about this place.
Yeah, he's got a guy out front, and as soon as they see you, somehow Nathan's there 10 minutes later, and you have to leave. I've got another question that I'm seeing people are saying. Sure. The two big things is, why in the world did Carlos go there? Well, he eats there all the time. It's his favorite restaurant. Nathan's worked there for a while. It's never been a problem.
Sure.
The other thing that I see people saying a lot is actually from a podcast that we did here, or you did, and you were with the guys, and you were talking about, knowing where the water went. And this is we have testimonies from 3 witnesses and your wife saying to us it looked like an accident.
Sure.
Was it an accident?
Absolutely. So me saying I know where that water's going, or I knew where it was going, or whatever, is really a reference to knowing that water didn't go on him, that glass wasn't grabbed. And I even said that if you look at it in the context of the entire conversation, I think I said later on, you know, that I got accused of grabbing a glass and throwing it at his head, which is what somebody said. Somebody said, oh, you grabbed a glass and threw it at his head, you know. And then when I actually saw the guy that said that, I ran into him later on, like a month or two later, and I said, hey, man, did he really think I threw that glass at his head? He goes, well, yeah, I thought that, but after thinking about it, you're probably right. He actually didn't know what he saw. It's just that when there's commotion, when there's chaos, people sort of come up with this imaginary,
even if they didn't
idea
see it, they might have heard
what they thought it was like. So they might hear some yelling or some rough words. Like, oh man, yeah, he grabbed his glass, he threw it at his head. They dramatize things. So it was just a contrast that I was making, between the accidental. No, I knew where that water was going. It wasn't a glass getting thrown at Nathan.
I saw it, and these people who claim that they saw it, they didn't see it because I was there.
Sure.
First up. So
exactly.
again, the jury did clear you on that.
Sure.
So, but
which is great.
The DA tried to use that against you.
Yeah. Yep. And we spent a lot of time talking about this in the trial.
So this motion. So was this hand behind this one or this hand behind this one?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. There was all kinds of conversation.
The windshield wiper motion.
I was like, dude, did this glass kill somebody? like
there was. I think there were 3 days on the motion.
Oh, it was nuts.
There were 3 days. At one point, I got out and I was like thinking, what just happened?
We should get some shirts made,
Well, I'm traumatized. I don't even order water with my meal anymore.
I know, man. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I sit at any bar, any restaurant now within 100 miles, and people go, "You want a water?" I'm not going to give you a water.
Shasta County is the only county in America that has paid $500,000 for a glass of water.
And walking. No, don't forget walking up to somebody. And whatever happened in the old days. And here's the deal. I wish people could run for judge that aren't lawyers, that aren't judges. I think that'd be just like I think people should run for sheriff. That
used
cops,
to be the case. Even up here up into the early 70s, there was a judge down in Cottonwood. He was a chicken farmer.
Yeah.
And you
go to his house. You go, "Hey, Judge, we got a problem here. Can you help us solve this?" Well, here you go.
But it's not a crime to walk up to somebody angry. Again, they convicted on challenging to fight. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to beat that.
I don't know. But here we are. And listen, life goes on. At the end of the day, I am so grateful and thankful for the life I have. I have the best friends in the world, the best community in the world, the best family in the world. What do I have to complain about? I can get into the weeds here and try to go toe to toe with these idiots, who want to talk shit about me, about us, about my family, say vile things, online. Those people are fucking miserable, dude. What kind of life do those people have? I would love to go to their homes and see how they live. I guarantee they live like shit, and they're lonely and they're miserable and they're pissed off all the time. I'm like, I actually live a pretty good life. People ask me all the time, "Carlos, how you doing? You doing all right?" Yeah, what do you mean? I had a great day, man. Come hang out with me for a day. You'd love my life. I have a really cool life.
It's terrible that you had to go through it, but it is really important that this DA got exposed. To me, that's...
And now that's my mission now.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm going to let somebody else carry the torch as far as making sure that we get new supervisors, and I'll help where I can. My life's mission right now is to get a district attorney, a DA, that's going to uphold, the honor of that office, and I hate the word rule, but, to preside over that office with integrity. That's all we want. Somebody with a lot of integrity and somebody who's going to use a lot of common sense. Listen, I think that's what's great about the people that live in the West is that we've always lived with a lot of common sense. And that goes out the window when we start to interject a lot of government and a lot of, the fallacies that come over the mountains from the East, But we are who we are out here. We live out here for a reason. We got to remember why we live where we live, what we love about this place, and what we can do to make it better, make it what we want it to be for the rest of our lives, and for our kids to live here. The last thing we want is for our kids to grow up and want to live somewhere else. I have a daughter that lives in Hawaii. Grew up, said, "Hey, I'm getting out of here." Well, why do you want to get out of here, honey? Because I want to go experience something in Shasta County. Great, I encourage that, but I want you to come back. I want you to come back here to raise a family someday. That's what we want. So, with that,
Tully,
I just want to say, just so it's really clear that in all my communications with everybody here, I've only heard experience of togetherness. This podcast isn't just for certain class of people, certain people with certain skin. I like everybody.
Sure.
I want to include everybody. We're talking about improving people's lives. I want everybody at the table. I want to elevate everybody, all of humanity. And once we even start here, the people around the world.
Yeah.
You know, when we help ourselves, we should be donating, you know, a little bit of charity
Sure.
to what we can to help everybody. So just, I don't know that message gets out there that this is an open invitation. We want to elevate all of humanity.
It is.
Regardless of skin color, religion, anything. Everybody's invited.
I love the idea of the rising tide, you know. The rising tide raises all the boats with it, you know, and there's nobody out there. There's not one person on a boat going, hey, man, I wish I could stop the tide from rising. Yeah, no, listen, the tide rises, the tide falls, but we all go with it. And this is an idea that we've talked about for a long time. When we started this entire thing, this entire project, it was never about exclusion. It was never about keeping people out. It's about unifying, finding the unifiers. You know, what can we all, number one, get pissed off enough about that we all unite, and what can we all celebrate together that we have in common to unite around, you know? What are the things that we like? Because we can all, you know, my wife and I, we travel a lot, and we always like to sit at the bar. Everywhere we go, you know, not giving the infamous, you know, bar scene now, right? But we always sit at the bar because we've always thought, man, that's the best place to find out what's going on in that community. You talk to the bartender, you talk to the people around there, you know. You lose some of that when you sit at a table. And I've never once sat at a bar and talked about my differences with the person next to me, you know, ever. You talk about what you have in common, you talk about where you're from, you know, things you like, and you have great conversation. I think most humans are that way, but we're dealing with an element of humans here in Shasta County that aren't that way. They hate what we're saying. They don't want us to have a voice. They want to suppress us, and to the point where they want you to be disbarred. They want me to lose my business. They want you to be homeless. They want Woody to quit cutting hair. They want John's store to go under, you know, and these are the kinds of people that we're dealing with. So how do we deal with these kinds of people? At times we have to be very aggressive, but we also have to keep that door open for them to change their mind. So,
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I think you know, one great thing that I get excited about is you know, when the tides rise, you know, and we all live together. I want to see our neighbors, you know, do good. I want to see people walking down the street happy. I want to see happy families. You know, I like to go to the park, and I don't think about, like you were saying, I don't think about politics or any of that stuff. You know, it's like I see a happy family out there barbecuing and playing Frisbee and baseball and soccer, and it's just, it warms my heart. You know, it makes me feel, you know, really good. And you know, I don't ever sit there and just hope for the destruction of people that think, you know, opposite of me or different. You know, I like to debate I love debating with people.
Yeah.
You know, I like having logical conversations and learning from people, and you might disregard 99% of what one person says during a conversation, but if you can learn 1% of what they were saying and it impacts you, you know, and you combine that 1% and just keep stacking it up, you know, over the years, and you can, you know, learn from a lot of people if you have a conversation with them. But
man.
I guarantee you, if we never met, the first question I ask you is not going to be who'd you vote for, you know, or what political party do you affiliate with. It's never that. You know, we make it that, and the government wants that, right? They want those divisions. They want us to categorize ourselves a certain way, and
Big time.
I don't want to be categorized. I mean, and I want the right to change my mind. Isn't that the most beautiful thing about being a free person? Is the privilege and right to be able to change my mind. If I see things one way today, I have the right to change my mind tomorrow based on an experience or based on maybe further research or an idea I had, whatever, you know? So I think once we close the door on that, we're all pigeonholed into a certain lane. That's when we get into this divisive fighting that we're seeing now. So
Free marketplace of ideas, open mind.
sure. And we should all have an open mind.
Yeah.
You know, why wouldn't you? You know, I mean, I know what I believe in my core. I know what my principles are. And, you know, principles at the end of the day really don't change, right? What changes is our strategies and our tactics change. And sometimes people will say, well, you know, God, you know, you used to believe this. I'm like, no, I still believe that. You know, but maybe the way that we approach it, maybe our strategy, our tactic in a political arena is a little bit different how we approach this, you know, so.
Well, and I think, too, there's so many misconceptions about even what we're doing with this documentary, like what the story is that we're telling, just because of the articles that get written up and things like that. And I read things like, you know, let's be clear, Red, White, and Blueprint's main goal is to abolish the Health and Human Services Department in Shasta County. I read that and I thought, this is like a news article.
Yeah.
It's an opinion piece, so
Sure.
you can't sue for defamation or something. But I'm like, what are you talking about?
So yeah, you're right. I'm going to do all
we
this.
wanna
Build this entire thing. It's a whole deal.
We really want to
about
get
health
rid
and
of
human services. You know,
yeah,
that's what
we
we're
want
trying
to,
get rid of.
and then the union writes this letter to every employee and saying they're trying to take your job and all this stuff. And I'm like, we've ignored local government forever, not just in Shasta County. This is everywhere.
Sure.
This is the one part of government we haven't paid attention to, yet it's the one part of government that we can move the needle as a community. All we've ever focused on is the presidency and maybe a little bit of who our governor is.
Sure.
But traditionally, it's always the presidency, and local government we've ignored. And our founding fathers said you can have this kind of government if the people understand it, are educated in it, because they're the ones that have to set the track straight if things get wonky, right? So we've ignored it, and all of a sudden now, because of other people in conversations, I start researching it, and I'm like, oh, wow, we have a serious problem.
Sure.
20 years ago in Shasta County, our budget was $300 million. Now it's $600 million, and things aren't getting better.
Sure.
And our population has not grown but 6%.
Spending more money is rarely the right option, you know.
Well, have you seen the average median income too? Hasn't hardly gone up at all.
It hasn't risen.
It's something like $36,000 or something
Yeah.
in Shasta County. It's really low. So how do you equate that with doubling the government spending? You know,
Sure.
that's
So
crazy.
this money is our taxpayer money coming back into the county from the state, and it's our responsibility to elect the right elected officials, and that includes the DA and the sheriff and the auditor and all those positions, but the Board of Supervisors too, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that say, hey, look, why do we have these programs over in Health and Human Services that have been failing financially big time for 10 years, and we've never decided to scrap them and come up with a new innovative idea. Sure. If you start digging in and doing your job and realizing we did this program and we ended up getting 20 people off the street, but it cost us $3 million per person to do it because there was a 95% failure rate. Those kinds of things happen, and no one is there to say, wait, let's just stop doing it. They just keep doing it year after year. We need people to get in there that actually want change, and change is really hard. Most people don't want it, but want change and have the willpower and the motivation to dig in and say, how can we be efficient and do the best job and be a beacon to other counties for how a county can completely change through an election year, Sure. I mean, imagine what would happen if next year, I guess it would be 2023, we actually had a board with a will, and we had fresh department heads and fresh elected officials that are going, okay, we've never really thought about being in this job, but we got awoken in 2021 and 2022 to the possibility of what this county could be. Imagine what our county would look like. It would be insane.
Oh, it would be great. And to see real conservative people taking positions of again, I hate the word power, because not positions of power, but positions of influence, within the county would be great. And remember that the true conservatives are the ones that want progress. We don't want to go back to the 1950s as people say we want to do. No, we want innovation. We want progress. We want better jobs. We want higher paying jobs. To me, you're not a real conservative if you don't want to change, if you don't want to see things move forward, there's things that we all love about the past. There's things that we hold dear in our memories about the past. But in a lot of ways, life was simpler and it was better. But there's things that we need to move forward on, together. And there's nothing wrong with that.
We need people that consider themselves servant leaders. They're there
Public
to serve
servants,
people.
yeah.
Public servants. They've really, I think, they've lost their way on that a lot.
Sure.
Especially a guy like Modi that's been at the trough his whole life.
The servant leader concept is a phenomenal concept. Anybody that's fascinated as I am with leadership, I know you guys are too, read into that. Read into the servant leader concept. It's a concept that's taught to young Marine officers from day one. Marine leaders live by that, live and die by. We had, and I know this conversation is kind of going a lot longer than we expected, but we had the general come and talk to us, at this dinner that we had. And he said, I'm only going to sit up here and say 3 words to you guys. And to carry those 3 words through the rest of your life. Officers eat last. And that was it. you know. And with that, I mean, man, my brain was just jumbled, man. I was like, dude, this guy just gave me the most awesome 3 words I will ever hear, because leaders eat last, you know. Right. It's that servant leadership
they go
concept,
to bed last,
you know.
get up
they
earliest,
do.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways,
All right.
a lot of stuff, good stuff. Joseph,
Thanks,
thank you.
Joseph. Thanks, Jeremy.
Come back again.
For sure.